Well, we finally ended the last of the special session. That was probably the strangest end that I've ever been around, where Republicans wanted to confirm two commissioners that the governor had, and the Democrats would rather do sine die. We thought it was going to be a very short day, no political theater, but in the end, that's the nature of what we do at times. So. But here we are, ready to finish, ready to go back to our other lives for many of us. We're not legislators full-time, don't want to be, so we're done, and that's a good thing. Any questions before I take off up north?
So you were going to confirm Sarah Stroman today,
Yes.
And you were going to hold Jennifer Ho for another time, September?
We were not moving forward or against Jennifer Ho. We decided that could wait. We did want to do the Board of Animal Health and the DNR. We felt like they clearly are doing their job and should be confirmed.
Where do you draw the line between performance reviews and using these folks as kind of a leverage point with the governor?
Yeah, and so I think we take it very seriously if a commissioner does not make it through the process. As I mentioned on the floor, there was one commissioner not confirmed from Ventura, and one from Dayton, and two from Pulteney, and two from Walls. But it has been an uptick from the very beginning. If you go back to the 1930s, I think it's a total of 15. And so we take it very seriously. We try to figure out, number one, are they doing their job? Number two, are they able to work with the Senate and the House? Are they building the relationships? And so it's a fine line. But if you look at the numbers that have actually happened over the years, we're in the realm of modern day commissioners either not being confirmed.
Senator, some of the Democrats made references to comments that Senator David Osmek made yesterday during a radio interview. I believe the minority leader circulated those comments among senators today. So just wanted to ask you about his remarks and whether you thought it was appropriate for him to use that language.
Yeah, no, I do not support the comments of Senator Osmek related to the commissioner of the MPCA.
Will we see more commissioners be confirmed or not confirmed in September and regular session next year, or will you go the governor's entire term without confirming many?
Honestly, I don't know what the direction is going to be on whether we confirm or not confirm commissioners in the future. As I've mentioned, there have been times that the commissioners never confirm, they just serve in that position. There's plenty of commissioners, I believe, that could be confirmed, and so we'll just have to have a conversation about that.
Your name your appointees to the premium pay, and what will your marching orders to those folks be?
The premium pay is the $250 million that will be available to frontline workers. As you know, there's 9 going to be on that committee, 3 from the House, 3 from the Senate, and 3 from the executive branch. I hope to do that soon if we haven't already done it. I know we have the names that we want to pick. And then they'll move forward, and hopefully we'll have unanimous agreement from the 9. I think that would be the goal for the executive branch and the House and Senate, but it has to be at least 7 that approve the dollars. The emphasis we thought first and foremost was the frontline workers that work in long-term care facilities. That's frankly where many of the deaths were that happened, and so, but that I don't think that'll be a problem. I think it'll go forward pretty smoothly.
So who are they if you've already selected them?
Good job. Nice try.
Are they lawmakers?
Well, why wouldn't you
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 2 lawmakers. Two. We're going to pick 2 Republican lawmakers, and there'll be 1 from the minority party. So that'd be the Senate Democrats, and then same thing on the House side.
How many suggested?
Well, you let me know when you're ready.
One second.
How are we all doing?
Okay, we're good.
Ready?
Are we all good? Yep. Okay.
Well, we finally ended the last of the special session. That was probably the strangest end that I've ever been around, where Republicans wanted to confirm 2 commissioners that the governor had, and the Democrats would rather do sine die. We thought it was going to be a very short day, no political theater, but in the end, that's the nature of what we do at times. So. But here we are, ready to finish, ready to go back to our other lives for many of us. We're not legislators full-time, don't want to be, so we're done, and that's a good thing. Any questions before I take off up north?
So you were going to confirm Sarah Stroman today,
Yes.
and you were going to hold Jennifer Ho for another time, September?
We were not moving forward or against Jennifer Ho. We decided that could wait. We did want to do the Board of Animal Health and the DNR. We felt like they clearly are doing their job and should be confirmed.
Where do you draw the line between performance reviews and using these folks as kind of a leverage point with the governor?
Yeah, and so I think we take it very seriously if a commissioner does not make it through the process. As I mentioned on the floor, there was one commissioner not confirmed from Ventura, and one from Dayton, and two from Pulteney, and two from Walls. But it has been an uptick from the very beginning. If you go back to the 1930s, I think it's a total of 15. And so we take it very seriously. We try to figure out, number one, are they doing their job? Number two, are they able to work with the Senate and the House? Are they building the relationships? And so it's a fine line, But if you look at the numbers that have actually happened over the years, we're in the realm of modern day commissioners either not being confirmed.
Senator, some of the Democrats made references to comments that Senator David Osmek made yesterday during a radio interview. I believe the minority leader had circulated those comments among senators today, so just wanted to ask you about his remarks and whether you thought it was appropriate for him to use that language.
Yeah, no, I do not support the comments of Senator Osmek related to the commissioner of the NPCA.
Will we see more commissioners be confirmed or not confirmed in September and regular session next year, or will you go the governor's entire term without confirming many?
Honestly, I don't know what the direction is going to be on whether we confirm or not confirm commissioners in the future. As I've mentioned, there have been times that the commissioners never confirm, they just serve in that position. There's plenty of commissioners, I believe, that could be confirmed, and so we'll just have to have a conversation about that.
When will you name your appointees to the premium pay work group, and what will your marching orders to those folks be?
The premium pay is the $250 million that will be available to frontline workers. As you know, there's 9 going to be on that committee, 3 from the House, 3 from the Senate, and 3 from the executive branch. I hope to do that soon if we haven't already done it. I know we have the names that we want to pick. And then they'll move forward, and hopefully we'll have unanimous agreement from the 9. I think that would be the goal for the executive branch and the House and Senate, but it has to be at least 7 that approve the dollars. The emphasis we thought first and foremost was the frontline workers that worked in long-term care facilities. That's frankly where many of the deaths were that happened, and so, but that, I don't think that'll be a problem. I think it'll go forward pretty smoothly.
So who are they if you've already selected them?
Good job. Nice try.
Are they lawmakers?
Well, why wouldn't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 2 lawmakers. Two. We're going to pick 2 Republican lawmakers, and there will be 1 from the minority party. So that'd be the Senate Democrats, and then same thing on the House side.
How many suggested citizens say not commissioners as his 3? Would that surprise you, or?
No, it's his prerogative. So whatever he decides to do. So, yep.
Do you have a size of what the check should be in mind? Should it be 1,000 or?
No, but that's a number that had been kicked around. So we'll just have to see how far it goes. Certainly the long-term care providers had a plan that they thought we should do, and so it was in that range.
And will 250 be the max, or if you feel like the money's not going far enough, are you willing to kick in more?
No, I think $250 million will be the max. And keep in mind the federal stimulus, that they basically had 4 main areas that we could give the money to, and one of them was frontline workers. So, but I think $250 million will be the max.
Senator, it's been agonizing enough to be here. I hate to talk about September, but do you imagine the governor will just give you a carte blanche and say, come on back, stay however long you want, do whatever you want, or do you anticipate he will insist on some sort of agreement limiting the agenda of that session?
That's a very, very good question. What will September look like for a special session? Our intent would be that we just do the frontline workers. We really don't have an agenda beyond that. Some people asked yesterday, did the Senate Republicans plan to stay in session throughout the summer? We emphatically said no, that today would be the end of that. We actually don't like to be in here month after month. That's part of the reason we're very glad that emergency powers are over. We don't need to be here. We're citizen legislators meant to be here a half a year at a time, and so we don't have an agenda other than the frontline workers in September.
Senator, do you have commissioners in mind who would come up first for a next round of confirmation hearings?
We have no plans for any other commissioners at this time, both to have conversations or otherwise. We do think hearings are important, but there's no plans for any more hearings as well. It's the part of the problem was, as you found out with Commissioner Bishop, there were hearings just in front of COVID, and then through COVID and emergency powers, everything got upended, and so it was just much different than normal. But at this point, there's no plans for any other commissioners.
Your political base, the Republican political base, seems particularly worked up about Commissioner Malcolm. She wasn't on this list for reviews. Do you feel like you're going to bring her in, and do you feel like you need to do that to satisfy the base?
The question about Commissioner Malcolm, we always look to our chairs first, and whether they think the commissioner's doing their job or not, and then the caucus as a whole. And unless there's a huge number of people in the caucus, no commissioner is ever considered to be removed.
And that's not there
No,
for
it's not
Commissioner
there.
Malcolm?
No.
Senator, has the confirmation process become too politicized in the last 20 years? Steve Minn, Sherry Pearson-Yecke, Carol Molnow, all facing similar confirmation battles that were largely political in nature and, in some cases, retribution.
So what I would say is if the appointee is too political, then it becomes extra difficult. It's advise and consent. If you think about that, I mentioned on the floor that there was a commissioner that I asked the governor to get advice from two different Democrats that were experts in that particular area, and if the two of those agreed, I would be fine. And so it's when there's not the seeking of advice, the character is too political, and then they're moving an agenda apart from the legislative branch through rulemaking and otherwise, where it can be a problem. I will say in that particular case, the second commissioner that came in, frankly, was doing a much better job. And so it's unique in this time in that we had the emergency powers where the governor had really broad sweeping powers for a year and a half, and the only tool we had for accountability was the idea of commissioners. And so very difficult year that I think we've all been through, but I think the fact that it's only been two commissioners compared to the last three governors, 2, 1, and 1, I think we're in the realm of where we should have been.
Is it likely to become more commonplace now in future years, just another tool in the toolbox?
I hope not.
Senator,
I hope not. Yep.
Expand on that a little bit.
Well, I think it has to be very prudent. It's my job to try to tap that down. Whoever the leader is, if there's a desire for that, I just think in the end, if it's too many, it doesn't serve our purpose well. And so, but like I said, this time with emergency powers and nothing else to stop him and doing everything he wanted to do apart from us, made it much more difficult.
Senator, former Commissioner Laura Bishop yesterday said that she works to carry out Governor Walz's policies, not your policies. I think this was an interview with NPR News, but just wanted to ask you to talk about whether you see the policies that MPC pursued as Laura Bishop's policies or the governor's policies. I mean, if you remember, MPCA issued the permits, for example, on Line 3.
So I don't think there was much difference between Stroman and Commissioner Bishop, DNR versus MPCA, as far as what they believed and what they were trying to accomplish. But there was a huge difference about how they delivered that message, and I think that's where we saw the big difference. That's why we're willing to confirm Commissioner Stroman, but Commissioner Bishop ended up resigning before we had that debate. And we really can't say for sure that she would not have been confirmed. I mean, I said that. We weren't 100% in our caucus that she shouldn't be confirmed, and so we'll never know.
Was it the clean cars thing? Was that the main impetus?
No, it was multiple things. Mandated electric cars was a big issue, but so was joining the lawsuit with Michigan against the taconite industry. She didn't have to do that. She joined the very last day, and that could jeopardize all the jobs up north. There was manure spreading. The livestock farmers spread out onto the fields. She tapped that back dramatically, and we had to fight to get more time for them to put it out in the fields. I mean, it was one thing after the other. You heard Senator Newman talk about some of the local communities and their frustration with how she was ramming stuff through. And so it was a combination of things over a long period of time that caused her demise.
Senator Gazelka, some of the, or much of the criticism from the DFL was there's been 2.5 years to do all these appointments. You said they should stay a little longer to, review the jobs of these people. In the end, though, only 2 were confirmed, and one who was perhaps the most at risk already stepped down, and then, Jennifer Ho at the housing agency ultimately, she had a hearing, but no vote. Do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted in staying an extra few days, and what do you respond to those criticisms?
Well, I think it's important that if a commissioner's not doing their job, that there's some accountability. And I try to treat it just like as an employer, how an employee would. You give them ample time to improve and warnings and opportunities to get better. And that's what we did with the commissioner of the MPCA, and it just didn't turn to the right place. But our goal isn't to remove commissioners. Our goal is for commissioners to work with us. That's the executive branch working with the legislative branch. So Commissioner Ho, we set it aside. I mean, that was the conversation. I don't think the conversation in the hearing was negative, but on the Commissioner Bishop one, in the end it was multiple times of warnings before we acted.
Probably time for one more, if anyone
One
has
more, because I can go up north again.
A lot of the criticism from some of the environmental groups centered on, the actions MPCA is trying to take is to combat climate change. Just curious if you could speak about, what Republicans believe in terms of climate change being real here and how Minnesota can address some of that.
Yeah, the governor keeps saying it was about climate change. We never even talked about climate change. We think, frankly, electric cars are coming for the future. We just didn't think they should be mandated. We didn't think that auto dealerships should have 7% of their stock in electric cars when so far the demand is 1%. And so it wasn't, we all think that taking care of the environment is important, and there's many ways to do that. But the actions that they did made it difficult for farmers. It made mandates that we don't think should happen. It could jeopardize the taconite industry and all the jobs up north. So it was about that and not about what the governor keeps saying, climate change.
Did you reassure back there when you spoke at the very end? You said some commissioners should feel reassured that, was that just Stroman and Comfort?
Last question here, but he said that the 2 commissioners that said we were going to confirm, the Board of Animal Health and the DNR, we didn't want them sitting out for another 6 months. You go through this process, and so I wanted to publicly say that we're good with them. We think they're doing their job as they're supposed to, working with the legislative branch, but speaking for the executive branch, and that's how it should be. So,
all right, thank you guys.
What's your timetable for deciding on whether you're running for governor? Just based on the interviews you've done, you've said 30 to 40 days.
Yeah, it's still that. So now it's 29 to 39 days. All right, thank you. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for sticking around for the end of the extra special session. This was, it was a good conversation on the floor, and it was a conversation that needed to be had. After, and I think there is a question to be asked, because the governor said very clearly in his statement yesterday that he heard from Senator Gazelka that they were definitely planning to remove Commissioner Bishop. And then she made the decision on her own to resign in advance of that hearing. And here we are. They accomplished that goal of removing Commissioner Bishop. And if they wanted to keep going with the confirmation process, they could have put up the votes and we could have continued. But they chose to go ahead and agree with the motion to adjourn sine die. And we are done for now.
What do you think that shows to you, that it was all Commissioner Bishop that they cared about?
Yes.
What did the governor say to you in your caucus today?
It was really kind of a get-together. We have not been together in person in forever, and he was, he talked about the success in where we've gone through COVID and expressed his appreciation to our members for our work, and talked about the budget and our partnership throughout that. We talked a little bit about confirmations, of course, but it was a bigger conversation than just this particular issue.
Did you talk about the strategy at all today to make this motion as opposed to confirming 2 of his appointees?
Not with the governor, no. This was our caucus. This was our members' discussion about how we. We represent almost half of Minnesota, and if you go by population, it's closer to half. And we felt like it was important that we represent the voices of the people we represent and make this case that this process is deeply flawed. It is not as it was intended, and we need to do better. And that was the highlight here. As I said, you know, the Constitution of Minnesota says advice and consent on the part of the Senate in these confirmations. As has been said by the majority leader repeatedly, they see this as a job interview. And I think that fundamentally distorts how this process should work. As my colleagues John Marty said, this is like a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of the governor's appointees for years. And so if they do anything, they could be put crosswise with the Senate majority and find themselves called up for confirmation all of a sudden when it's a foregone conclusion. That's not okay.
But Senator, did you have members who would just soon not cast a vote on Commissioner Stroman?
I didn't hear from anybody that was the case.
How many of your members might have been voting yes on Commissioner Stroman?
We really didn't caucus it. I am not aware of anybody who would have voted no.
You certainly suggested at meeting yesterday that she was not in favor of her.
I'm not sure. I did not speak to her about that.
Senator, long before you were in the Senate, Democratic senators were doing the same thing to Republican commissioners. Is this unfortunately become part of the process?
Well, my understanding with those cases was it was more timely, and it was specific about the situations with those appointments, with those individuals, as opposed to where this is saying, politically we don't agree that you are doing the work to execute the governor's agenda, and we're going to remove you over that. Those are very different situations. Advice and consent has a role. It has a place. And I believe we should be able to talk about if it's a good idea to have the lieutenant governor be a commissioner of a major state agency. That's a fair conversation. Right?
I think Sherry Pearson-Yecke was 18 months into her tenure and Carol Molnow 5 years into her tenure. So that argument doesn't hold much water.
Was Commissioner Molnow commissioner that entire 5 years? I don't believe that was the case. Was she? Okay, all right. Well,
so my point is this unfortunately for both sides becoming just another part of the toolbox?
Again, I think this is an extreme case. I mean, Senator Gazelka himself said on the floor that this has been done 15 times since the 1930s, and 3 of them basically are under his watch. That is a pretty high number, with a whole bunch of them still being hung out there. That's the point. This is extreme. I don't think it's great in any circumstance, but this is extreme.
Who do you plan to name to the pay panel, and what do you see that? How do you see that process going?
Honestly, we've not gotten there yet. That's a thing we've sort of talked around internally, but because we've had all these other issues that we've been dealing with, trying to get finished with the budget and trying to now deal with this, we have not had a chance to really dive into that conversation.
But given how this session has gone and how the last year plus has gone, do you see that process becoming a problem-laden and potentially deadlock situation?
I am ever an optimist. I am a glass half full kind of a girl, and I am going to stay hopeful that we can approach this professionally and rationally and keep the focus on the people on the front line who have done so much for us over this past 16 months. I'm also a realist and recognize that could be an issue, and we will be discussing strategy and figuring out who we want to have as a part of that and how we'll move forward with it.
The $250 million number seems to be set. Given that if the number of groups of workers gets to be larger and larger, obviously the checks get smaller and smaller. Is there a size of check that you think is appropriate?
I have not gone that far down with thinking about that process yet.
Senator, do you think the governor is going to call you all back into session in September with an open, do whatever you want for however long you want, or do you expect that there is going to be a negotiated agreement to stick to that one heroes topic before he calls you in?
I'm thinking about all the special sessions we've had in the past 18 months. I think we try to approach these in a contained way as much as possible and stay focused on the issue at hand, and I hope we will be able to get some agreement about that this time. But I'm not going to predict what he's going to do.
Getting back to the motion to adjourn, were there any particular commissioners that you're trying to protect today?
No, it really is the bigger process.
Okay.
Yeah, and that this is just sort of specific here, and this, the way they have done this last summer, and keep talking about it. I mean, it is the continued implied threat that if a commissioner does something that they don't like, that they could be removed at any minute. I don't think that is healthy for the state of Minnesota.
Okay, thanks.
Your one member to the pay panel is going to be a lawmaker?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Again, haven't thought about it, as you can tell. It's like, every now and then it's like, yeah, we got to dive into that, but we just have not had the time.
Summer brain.
Right. Well, budget, special session, no sleep.
All the things.
All the things, yes. Yep.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you all so much for a great, very long session.